Welcome to our long division lesson, dividing a 3-digit dividend by a 2-digit divisor with our remainder. Now let's look at an example showing the terms in division. So here we have our number sentence. 224 divided by 14 equals 16. 224 being the dividend, 14 divisor, and 16 or quotient. Now what do these terms mean? What do these terms tell us? The dividend, this is the number that is being divided or broken down into smaller parts by the divisor. The divisor, this is the number that divides or breaks up the dividend into smaller parts. And our quotient, this is the name of the smaller parts. Now in working our long division, solving problems, we need to remember steps that we have to use in order to help us solve and arrive at our quotient or answer. We use what we call a mnemonic device. This mnemonic device is David's mom sells beef roti. So this mnemonic device is going to help us remember our steps. So David's mom sells beef roti. Now here we are going to use the first digit in from each of those words in our mnemonic device to help us learn those steps. So we have our D, M, S, B, and R. Here we have our steps and our mnemonic device at the top. So that D tells us that we have to divide. That's our first step. Our second step from M would be to multiply. Our third step, S, subtract. Fourth step, bring down. And our fifth step would be to repeat, if we have to repeat our process. So from our mnemonic device, David's mom sells beef roti. We have our steps we're going to use in solving our long division problems. Divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, repeat. So let's move straight on into our problem, which we have to divide 384, our dividend, by our divisor 15. So 384 divided by 15. So here we have our working column and our long division symbol. We have our divisor placed on the outside of that long division symbol and our dividend placed inside. So now we can start working. Here we have our steps. Here we are going to divide. Now we're looking at our first digit in our dividend and we're asking ourselves, using our divisor 15, how many times can 15 go into 3? How many times can 15 go into 3? We cannot. So now we have to join that 8 with that 3. So move on to the next digit. So now we have 38. So now we are saying how many groups of 15 can we get from 38? And now we have a bigger number to work with. How many times or how many groups of 3 can we get, how groups of 15, can we get from 38? We can get 2 groups of 15 from 38. Now let's move on to our next step. With that group of 2 that we got, now we're going to multiply that to our divisor 15. So 15 multiplied by 2 will give us 30. So that's our second step in which we multiply. So and we got 30. Now with that 30, we're going to move on to our next step, which will be to subtract. So now we're going to subtract that 30 from those numbers we used at 38. So that 38 take away 30 would give us 8. So we have done our subtraction. Now we're going to move on to our next step, because let's do a comparing before we go to that next step. How many times can 15, or how many groups of 15 can we get from 8? Notice 8 is smaller than 15. We cannot. So that's why we have to move on to our next step, which will tell us that we have to bring down. So we have that digit 4 that we are going to bring down with that 8. And now we have found 84. So a number that is larger than 15. Now since we've done that, our next step would be to repeat. So we are going to go back to our first step that we used, which was divide. So now we're asking ourselves, how many groups of 15 can we get from 84? We can get 5. We can get 5 groups of 15 from 84. So we did it. So now let's move on to our next step. Since we got our group 5, now we're going to multiply that 5 that we got by our divisor 15. So we multiplied 5 by 15, we got 75. So let's move on to our next step, which would be to subtract. So now we need to subtract that 75 from 84. When we subtract, we got 9. Now, if we look at our dividend, we have brought down our last digit, which was 4. So there's no other number to bring down. So this means that our sum has ended. And since we have 9, and 9 is less than our divisor 15, that 9 would be our remainder. Because we have no more numbers to bring down. So that's it. That's the end of solving our problem. So we have our 25. So we can get 25 groups of 15 from 384 with our remainder of 9. So that's the end of our sum. And here we have our quotient 25, remainder 9.